We understand why there is some hesitation sometimes. Because when your desire is new and fresh, it calls you in a different way, doesn't it? But if you've wanted something for a while, and it seems to be slow in coming, we understand why that desire would not feel so good to you. A desire that is believed or expected feels so life-giving, while a desire that feels like it is not coming, or like it has not come, or like maybe it may never come, those desires are not as pleasant. And the trouble with that distinction is that you can't have some desires that are answerable and some that aren't. In other words, you can't say some desires are appropriate and therefore will be granted, and other desires are inappropriate and therefore will not be granted. In other words, you can't have it both ways. When you ask, it is either given or it isn't. When you ask, the answer comes forth or it doesn't. But what we want you to understand is that everything that you ask for is always answered. When you ask, it is always given, every single time, no exceptions. So, if you have desires that feel as if they are unanswered, it is not because they're not being answered. It is because there is something happening in your vibration that isn't letting them in. And that feeling of freshness or exhilaration that is present with some desires, and that feeling of discouragement or disappointment or worry or even fear that is present with other desires, those emotions that you feel are the telling distinction that you want to be focused about. In other words, every desire is answered, but if it feels fresh and exhilarating to you, you're letting it be answered sooner. If it feels like discouragement, or if it feels like fear, or if it feels like frustration even, then there is something going on in your thinking process that is hindering your reception of what you're asking for. We like to help you to feel the power that you hold in the receiving or the not receiving of your own wishes or desires. Sometimes at first, when our physical friends begin to focus upon the idea of creating their own reality, sometimes you balk at the idea, especially at first, because you're not sure that you are worthy of choosing. Sometimes you balk at the idea of being the creator of your own reality because you are not sure that you are wise enough or worthy enough. And we want, as we're moving forward here today, for you to get that one handled in your own vibration. We want you to leave this gathering no longer questioning the appropriateness of you creating your own reality. Instead, we want you to leave here knowing that not only do you create your own reality, or can you create your own reality, but no one else does. Nobody else is choosing for you. You are choosing. We want you to go with the flow. You've heard the expression, go with the flow. And we want you to realize that in the ultimate sense, what going with the flow means is going with the flow of the ideas that this time-space reality has helped to give birth to within you. In other words, if this environment has inspired the idea within you, it is our promise to you that this environment can fulfill that desire completely. You could not want it if you could not have it or be it or do it. It's not possible. The idea that you have dreamed it means that it can be yours. In fact, we would like to say to you, it means that it must be yours. But you've got to get in sync with your own desire, which means you got to go with the flow of your desire, not against the flow of your desire. How do you know when you're in the flow of a desire? It feels wonderful. It feels like passion. It feels like enthusiasm. It feels like the next logical step. It feels like well-being. How do you know when you're not going with the flow? It feels like frustration. It feels like irritation. It feels like aggravation. It feels like fear. It feels like anger. It feels like suffocation. In other words, when you're not going with the flow of what? the flow of well-being. How do we know it's the flow of well-being? It's the only flow there is. There is only a stream of well-being. You can let it in or not. If someone presses a pillow to your face and you feel deprived or suffocated from the oxygen, do you say somebody has shut the valve off for the whole world? Do you say something has happened and the air that I breathe has been siphoned from the atmosphere and now we all will be suffocated? Or do you say something is going on with me personally that is keeping me from being in the flow of oxygen? There's no source of sickness. There's no source of poverty. There's no source of bad stuff. There's no source of that sickness or stuff you do not want. But there is you, without meaning to, achieving vibrational alignment with how things are instead of with how things are desired. In other words, if you look into some poverty-ridden region or into some shadow in your body that you call illness or into your checking account that seems to be without funds, and you pronounce, this is my current view of reality, what you're actually saying is, this is, of all the myriad of opportunity to focus that is provided for me here, this is what I'm choosing to give my undivided attention to, and therefore this is what I am choosing as my vibrational basis for now. And you can tell by the way you feel whether this choice is going with the flow of well-being or whether, for now, you've got a pillow over your face. So, we want, in the hours that are before us, to help you to realize that you are the creator of your own experience, which means you are the author of your vibration, which means you can control with much less awareness than you have perhaps formerly thought what your vibrational output is on every subject, which means you can control the manifestational input on every subject. In other words, you can control who you rendezvous with in traffic, who you rendezvous with in restaurants, who you rendezvous with in telephone calls. You can control the functioning of your body, the longevity of your body, the flexibility of your body, the clarity of your body. You can control the financial influx into your experience. You can control the people who will come to assist you. In other words, you, only you, are the creator of your own reality. And so we would like to help you to acknowledge, at least as a first step here today, that you want to be the creator of your own reality. Because until you acknowledge, yes, I want to do it, then everything that we will say here today will be sort of irrelevant to you. If you don't want to be the creator of your own reality, then we can't really help you here, but we encourage you to stay anyway because you are the creator of your own reality. So whether you know it or not, whether you want it to be that way or not, that is the way that it is. And it is ever so helpful to start relaxing and trusting yourself a little more and saying things such as, well, I am the creator of my own reality, and while I'm not very good yet at being the creator of my own reality, I like the idea at least that I'm the creator of my own reality, and I'm going to start paying attention to the way I feel so that I can start being more the deliberate creator of my own reality. We would like you to begin saying, it is important to me to be aware of how I feel because the way I feel is my indicator of what I'm doing vibrationally. Do you understand that? That your vibration is indicated to you through emotion. Everything around all of us, whether you are physically focused as you are or whether you are non-physically focused as we are, and really there's very little difference between the two, you are full of those like us. In other words, you cannot separate yourself from the non-physical energy and consciousness and awareness and joyousness and intelligence and willingness and helpfulness. That is us. In other words, you can't get rid of us. You can't shake us off. You can't feel bad enough that we ever go away. You can feel bad enough that you don't acknowledge that we're there. You can feel bad enough that you don't hear what we have to say. You can feel bad enough that you don't have the benefit of our presence, but you can never shake loose of your connection to source energy. It can't be done. You are flesh, blood, and bone beings, but you are more vibration than anything else. And the vibration of your being is your point of attraction. It is the signal that is always being answered. So as you make a statement and really mean it, I'm going to do my best to feel as good as I can from where I am right now. That statement is fabulous. That statement is good enough, because what you're saying is, I'm going to reach for the best feeling thought I can find. And if you reach from depression and you find a thought of anger, have you ever done that? Have you ever been so depressed or in such despair that anger actually felt like a relief to you? It always would, because the vibrational properties of anger are much more allowing of connection than the vibrational properties of despair. You know why that is? Because all of these emotions, no matter what you call them, all the way from despair to passion or joy, they are all about your sense of freedom and well-being. In other words, up here in the joy range, you feel self-empowered. There is empowerment there. Down there in the despair range, you feel powerless. Don't you find that interesting, that your emotional guidance system is based upon who you really are? That you are these powerful, clear-minded, free beings. You are so free that you can choose bondage. You are free to choose, free to focus, free to offer vibrations, free to attract. Sometimes people will see you as you've moved naturally into anger, and they will say to you, your anger is inappropriate. And we would like you to say to them, maybe so, but I'm happy here. This is my happy zone. I cannot reach the bliss that you have reached right now. This is as good as it gets for me, and it feels so much better than where I've been that I'm going to stay here for a while. So if it's unpleasant to you, I suggest you stay clear of me for a while. Do not worry, say to them, I don't plan on staying here very long, because I have this new mantra that says I'm going to continue to reach for the best feeling thought I can find, the best feeling thought I can find, the best feeling thought I can find. So I don't anticipate that I'm going to stay here forever, but for now this is the best feeling thought I can find. I'm working on something in the area of frustration and overwhelmment, but right now this is the best feeling thought I can find. And here is the important thing about this. If you have reached for the angry thought deliberately and have found it, and you can consciously acknowledge that it feels better than where you have been, now you have regained your power, which was what the whole negative emotion thing was about to begin with. That's why once you make that first step into something where you have consciously acknowledged that you're back in control, you can move quickly up the emotional scale. But until you acknowledge that you've done it on purpose and that you have affected the change, then you feel powerless. Then it feels like karma did it to you. Then it feels like your powerful mother did it to you. Then it feels like the government did it to you, or the economy did it to you, or a past life did it to you. You are very creative in all of the ways you explain why things aren't going better. But you never feel good until you acknowledge that you have creative control. The key to this moving up the emotional scale, in fact, it's such a wonderful exercise that we call it moving up the emotional scale. The key to it is reaching for the feeling of relief. There is allowing and there is resisting. And in leaving resistance behind, you find allowing. But the physical, visceral sensation of leaving resistance behind is a feeling of relief. So every time you feel just a little bit better, you have left behind a little bit of resistance. And every time you leave just a little bit of resistance behind, you are allowing more of the things that you've been asking for. So all of those things that have been held in vibrational escrow for you, we're not kidding you. Every time you've been in a situation where contrast has caused you to offer a preference, even if you didn't know you were offering the preference, you didn't speak about it, or you didn't write it down, you didn't say, I have a goal. Every time contrast produced preference within you, it preceded you vibrationally. And non-physical energy, non-physical beings like Abraham, like your inner beings, non-physical beings focused upon the rocket that you launched and are imagining it coming to fruition for you. So there is a pre-paving energy vortex that extends out before you, and it is full of all of the things that you want.